The Titanic sinks. Water began to flood the holes caused by the impact of the iceberg. 5 watertight compartments began to fill with water. Soon, it became clear that the Titanic was doomed. The ship's crew began notifying passengers to don or put on life jackets and report to deck. At this time, passengers were not told that the ship was sinking, and many ignored the orders, preferring to remain in their warm rooms rather than be outside in the chilly night air. First class passengers were assisted to deck, while second and third class passengers were merely awoken and ordered to leave their rooms. Sadly, many third class passengers were unable to find their way to safety, either lost in the maze of corridors or blocked from escape due to locked gates. Officials began loading the lifeboats with women and children first. Some men were also put on lifeboats when there were no more women and children waiting at the time. Although the lifeboats were capable of holding 68 people safely, most lifeboats were lowered with only half that number on board, as the crew was afraid of putting too many people on a lifeboat. Had the lifeboats been filled to capacity, an additional 500 people would have been saved. J. Bruce Ismay, chairman of the White Star Line Company, was among those loaded into lifeboats. As the lifeboat evacuation proceeded, distress signals were sent out over the radio waves and flares were launched from the ship. Another ship in the Atlantic, the RMS Carpathia, heard the ship's call for aid and headed that way. It would take the RMS Carpathia 4 hours to travel the 58 miles to the Titanic. The crew of the Carpathia put themselves in danger, traveling at dangerous speeds and dodging nearby icebergs to reach the distressed Titanic. At around 2:15 a.m., the ship suddenly began to sink more rapidly. The bow, or front end of the ship, dipped under the water and began to pour onto the ship. The angle of the ship increased as the stern, or back end of the ship, lifted into the air, exposing the ship's giant propellers. Then the ship began breaking into 2 pieces, and the bow separated from the stern and sank to the bottom of the ocean. The stern bobbed in the water for a few minutes before the back end rose to nearly a vertical angle, straight up and down, and sank into the Atlantic Ocean. Those who remained on the Titanic either jumped into the frigid waters or sank with the ship. All right, friends, what I'd like for you to do this time is pick out 3 of the words from the words chosen for you to put in the glossary. These words are defined in the text that I just read, but you're going to have to use your context clues to figure out what they mean. When you're putting them on your sheet of paper, I want you to make sure that you're putting the definitions in your own words.